That's right. Here at Mowers and Blowers, we push them into the garage and they come out driving. Hey guys, how you doing? It's Henry at Mowers and Blowers. Good morning. I've had this Cub Cadet piece for like the longest time. You guys remember when I got it. It was from the Nick from Medford Cub Cadet, which I then bought a Noah Syndergaard Cub Cadet to match exactly. Took the deck off the Nick from Medford one and put it on the Noah Syndergaard and fixed this, fixed that, fixed the other thing, whatever. That project was a nightmare. I didn't enjoy that one at all. I did eventually sell it for $300 or $400. I don't remember. But I'm glad I got rid of it. So I tore down the first one, and all the parts I didn't think I would ever sell because, honestly, that tractor sucked. But anyway, I kept it anyway. Sold this piece for $400. $40 last night. I don't even remember what it is. The red Craftsman that I just finished repainting the whole thing red, right? It came with a bagger system, right? And it had this bracket on the back that holds the bagger, right? I've actually never seen this one because usually it's just this bracket, right? Where you can attach this bracket onto it with a stud through it, right? But this one's welded on there. Anyway, it's whole piece, one piece. I decided I was going to take that bagger and put it on the LTS1500, the one that I'm going to repower today. And that already has this. You see what I'm saying? I think I should make sure they fit. You know, that the bagger will fit on the one for the LTS, just to make sure. But anyway, I sold this for $46 last night. No idea how I'm going to send it. I mean, I'm going to have to find a box that's, you know what I mean, wide enough and long enough to, and strong enough to, you know, sustain something so heavy. But anyway, that's like almost $100 right there. Here's a quick update on the area I used to park all my lawn tractors. Wouldn't grow grass here, so as you know, I used my Greenworks dethatcher, clean this place up. Kind of cultivated, and it's growing slowly but surely. It's growing. We'll see what happens in a few weeks. This used to belong right here, 4 bolts, just like that. The LTS1500 has the same exact bracket, so I'm going to put the bagger that came with this onto the LTS. I want to make sure that this attachment is the same exact one as the LTS 1500. Here's the LTS 1500, the back part. Good. They're identical. Identical. It's only about 9 o'clock in the morning today, and just being outside, it's already hot. So you know that today is going to be like 80, 85 degrees and very humid. It's going to be a scorcher. Anyway, as you guys know from yesterday's episode, I reassembled the 17.5 Briggs overhead valve single-cylinder engine. This is the one made from 2 blown ones. One of them had the broken synchro balancer and connecting rod, while the other one had a bad piston. Chunk of the top part just came off, and all you could do was see the exposed top piston ring. So basically, I took the piston off of that one, put it on the one that needed the piston, took the head off of that one, and put it in. Now, initially, when I was assembling this, right, and this is very interesting, okay? As I was putting that head on, I was putting the push rods in, right? And I'm going, wait a minute, how does that go again? Aluminum one goes to the exhaust or the intake? What's stronger? Steel is stronger than aluminum, right? So you gotta have the steel one for the exhaust, because the exhaust is going to be hotter, right? The aluminum one, I remember from years ago how I've heard the aluminum ones just break. They don't bend, but they break. Now, if the aluminum ones break, a piece of it could go into the engine and then cause more carnage from that. Whereas a bent one will just stop your engine from running to have no compression, right? So I wasn't 100% sure at the time because my hands were like up to my elbows in grease, right? So I was like, how does this go? You know, I couldn't pick up a phone and just look, which I eventually did. But I looked at the original engine, the first one, and I saw that the aluminum rod was on the bottom, okay? The bottom being the intake. So I'm like, all right, that seems right, you know, because the steel one is the exhaust. That's the stronger one for the exhaust, the heat. But I wanted to check anyway, so I wiped my hands, whatever. I looked on the internet, and I saw these forums and part numbers. Well, not forums, part numbers, like 3 different ones, 3 different links to parts. And it said on the bottom very clearly, the exhaust, the aluminum rods go for the exhaust port. So that's what I did. I had it right the first time. I redid the rocker arms and swapped them. I put the metal one in the intake and the aluminum on the exhaust. And then last night, lots of comments, about 4 or 5 people. My buddies 5-Speed Ash, Don Echo Man, my friend Steven Becker, a bunch of other guys, which I don't remember the name, I apologize. Told me that it's the other way around. I had it right the first time before I switched it around. So guess what? What makes sense still stands. Thank you to 5-Speed Ash and Don for pointing it out to me, that the intake is always the steel one. The aluminum is always the exhaust one. Now, they're both identical in size, right? There's a weight difference. They put the steel one for the exhaust because of the heat, right? While aluminum will stand the heat, it may not withstand the strength, right? And so sometimes the aluminum ones break while the while the steel ones just bend. You kind of want them to just bend. I don't really know the reason why. I mean, how much weight difference does it matter? You know what I'm saying? Why not just make them all steel, you know? I was reading the forums. Theoretically, you can just put 2 steel ones in there. It's just not from the manufacturer, but people have done it, you know, just to put 2 steel ones in, it's stronger. Now, this will work as it is, having the steel one in the intake and the aluminum one in the exhaust. But in the long run, though, if this engine is running extra hot, right, it is a possibility that that exhaust, the aluminum one, could break from the heat in the exhaust because it's too hot in the exhaust. So, I mean, it's not that hard. I just got to redo the valve lash again, that's all. So I'll remove this. I guess I could actually do it right now. But I got to change, you know. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna take the valve cover off. I didn't put any RTV here, so it just should come off, right? I'll take off take off both rocker arms, pull them both out, swap them, redo a valve adjustment. And then we'll mount this on the LTS1500 today.
So I got my packages ready for Quinn the Mailman. That Cub Cadet thing in this box, because it's only going to like Pennsylvania, priority mail, it was only like $8.59. I made my own box though. It's not bad. I'm doing a voiceover now because I, again, did not remember to turn on my transmitter. You just have to remember that when you accept offers, sometimes you want to make sure they're in your proper zip code or zone. East Coast. East Coast is cheaper. If I had to send this to Utah or California, like this big one over here, this big one actually was in a big box. I cut it in half. So here we go. I'm gonna lift this up so I can see the valve cover nice and clearly. It's 3/8 bolts to remove the valve cover. I didn't put any RTV on the gasket, so it should just pop out. I'm gonna get you closer now so you can see. It's very easy to just remove. As you can see, it's tight, right? Gonna need a torque wrench, figure out the right one. I'm gonna loosen them all up. Loosen up the rocker arms enough so that they can just pivot to the side so it comes off the push rods. It's a 9/16 to loosen that outer bolt. Sorry, outer nut. Now that we got both rocker arms off, it's easy to just remove the push rod, just pull them right out. As you can see, by the way, the steel one is just a millimeter longer than the aluminum one, which was the reason why I had such an issue with the intake yesterday. When I did the intake, I'm like, man, that is super tight, you know? So now we know why. It was about a millimeter longer for the steel one over the aluminum one. You can't really see, so you need a flashlight to look down. When you stick the rod all the way in, you want to make sure that it's touching the tappet, that it's lined up for with the tappet. If it's not straight down touching the tappet, right, the tappet's not going to be able to push the push rods upwards from the lobes of the camshaft. You just want to make sure that when you put the push rods in, that they're both touching their individual tappets. Without moving it and placing the rocker arms back on again. Remember the caps that are on top of the springs? I've lost caps before, and I've put the rocker arms back on there without the caps and wondered why there was so much clearance. And then I find the cap sitting on the floor. I'm like, oh my god, I forgot to put it in. So it's 6 1/1000ths for the exhaust, 4 1/1000ths for the intake, as per Briggs. I'm removing the spark plug again because I want to just make sure that it is at top dead center. The spark plug is the like YC12 something or other. It goes in to the engine about 1 inch, whereas the other kind is only like a 1/2 inch long. It only goes in about 1/2 inch. I'm trying to find the top dead center right now, and it's difficult to find, especially since I've already loosened the valves or loosened the rocker arms, because it's difficult to differentiate whether or not it's the compression stroke or top dead center. Exhaust stroke or compression stroke. But I had it at top dead center, and then I realized that it was too tight, so I knew that was the exhaust stroke. Now that I have it at the other top dead center, it's now loose. So I'm loosening it now. This is the exhaust. You want to feel a little bit of a drag, using the torque wrench to tighten the inner nut. Now I'm doing the intake at 4 1/1000ths. It's a 9/16 wrench, and I'm dragging the exhaust right now. That feels pretty good, so now I'm going to tighten the inner nut with the torque wrench, confirming the drag, tightening it just a little bit more just to get that proper drag. Doing the same with the bottom. So the bottom intake is 4 1/1000ths. In the Briggs specifications, it's between 3 1,000ths and 5 1,000ths. I take the middle of 4. The top is 5 1,000ths to 7. I take the middle, which is 6. So I always do it at 4 and 6. Always works well for me. I just want to confirm that now that I've gotten the valve lash right, I want to confirm that both push rods are indeed touching the tappets. Lining up the gasket again, making sure that they're centered with the hole. Putting a bolt in one corner and the opposite corner with the 3/8 bolts with my 3/8 impact wrench from DeWalt. Letting it click 2 or 3 times each corner, cross pattern, making sure that the overhead valve cover is nice and secure. Here I am, pushing it out, nice and out of my garage. We're gonna clean this part up a little bit because it's just a complete mess.
So you guys saw, moved the gas tank, cleaned out the area, mounted the engine, was able to easily mount the engine with the mounting bolts with my impact driver, which is great. Sometimes there's linkages down there that gets in the way, but this one went straight through. Reattached the wiring harness for the stator, the ignition kill, which is the magneto kill wire, the solenoid wire, which is the gray one, routed all the way to the bottom over here, back onto the fuel solenoid. Attached the muffler, but I forgot to do it before I put the engine on, so I had to remove the front bumper, which I have to give Nick as a promise for giving me the tip on getting this tractor in the first place. So Nick, I got your bumper over there with the hardware too. Had to remove the heat shield to get the muffler from the bottom. Found the original muffler bolts. I was cursing at myself for, where did I put those muffler bolts? But I had it in a box somewhere. I found it. Makes it a lot easier when you keep the bolts, you know, and not just throw it somewhere. Put the spark plug back in. Added gas. Made fuel lines. I have new fuel lines going to a fuel shutoff, to a brand new fill filter, gravity fed type, right? Into the carburetor. Got the throttle linkage worked out. Right into here, tighten it over there. Installed a new battery from Advanced Auto Parts. I paid $22.99 for it, plus tax, so it's like $26-7, something like that. So 160 crank amps. I managed to disconnect the PTO cable, loosened up the PTO on the bottom. The tension arm was seized. Used a crowbar to move it around a bit. I used penetrating oil from my friends over at Lucas Oil Products. Loosened up everything here. After I used penetrating oil for the cable, after a little while, started to move, so I saved this cable too. So the cable, tensioner arm, they all seem to work now. Still a little stiff, but when I work it back and forth, it should be okay. I feel a little funny about starting this for the first time with the cloth underneath, because I have a feeling the cloth is going to get sucked up somewhere. Let me remove the cloth. So I've moved my equipment out of the way, just pushed it forward. Here we go. Let's see if it starts. Engine rebuild. Let's see if it works. Choke. Brake is on. Holy cow! I forgot to put oil in it. Whoo! Holy cow! I'm surprised it ran without oil. It's a terrible habit I have. Absolutely terrible habit. I never remember to put the oil in. Oh my God! I can't believe it. It ran as much as it did without any oil in it. I mean, it had like a, you know, like an ounce of something in there, you know, but you know what? It's because I coated all the joints with that assembly lube that I had from Lucas Oil. That stuff was really thick and sticky. Now, maybe that helped a little bit, but I'm just like shocked that we ran that for about, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 seconds, right? And at full throttle too at one time without any oil in it. That's just crazy. I hope I didn't damage anything. Whew. So that was like the 0.2 or 0.3. So I just put this whole thing in here because I know there's no oil in here. I just put this engine together, so I know there's no oil. Crazy. Let's see if it starts up after we put some oil in there. But for that 10 seconds, it sounded great, didn't it? Carburetor too.
Try to run me without any oil, stupid idiot. I almost died. Oh, that feels much better now.
I hope I didn't blow this engine just from that, you know what I mean? all that work would have gone to complete waste. So far so good though. I don't see any. That's 1.3 that I got in there. I don't see any leaks anywhere. Well, it's not going to leak because there's no oil in it, right? But no gas leaks at least, you know. No leaks coming out of the gaskets as of yet, so let's try running this again. This time with full oil. Of course my battery's running out now. I'm just going to run it until it dies. Here we go, now we got oil in it. Let's try to PTO. Absolutely perfect. PTO works great. Mower deck seems to work great. No vibrations. Engine seems fantastic. I'm going to put the top cover back on while I charge my battery. So there it is, guys. It's all fixed. We got that 17.5 engine that we made from 2 blown ones. We mounted it on here. It fit perfectly. All the attachments were very easy to put back on. I put a fuel line on here. I just removed the lenses while my phone was charging, cleaned out the entire lens as well as the innards and the light bulb. I dropped the deck and blew out all the leaves and crap that were in there. The deck seems to work just fine. Now it is missing the side discharge deflector, but remember, this thing had a bagger on it, so I think that's the reason why they removed it. It's because they didn't want the deflector to be hanging like that, you know. So tomorrow I'm going to power wash this thing, power wash the bagger too, and we're going to install the bagger on here and see how it looks. These 3 tires hold air. That one had a slow leak, so I put ATF in it. This didn't have a gas tank. I attached a gas tank, also with brand new fuel lines with a new fuel shutoff and a new fuel filter. These 2 parts over here were used, but they were flexible and rubbery, so it's good. Put the engine cover on as well as the air filter cover. Put the air filter in there. That carburetor, I never cleaned it. I only blew it off on the outside because it was encased in oil and mud and dirt and all. The fuel solenoid does work. When I click it, you can hear the sound clicking. So the carburetor, I didn't do a thing to it. It works and runs great, you know. So we have a direct replacement 17.5 horsepower engine on the original stock model. I connected the lights. Starts up great. It's like somebody did 2 valve adjustments. Light switch. Let's go for a ride.
runs very well. Stuff.
Let's do an adjustment. It's idling very high. Need to oil the throttle. It's kind of sticky. Also, I need to adjust the brakes tomorrow too. Anyway, thanks a lot for following me along today's journey. I'm pretty happy. This thing runs and drives great, mows great, lights work. Successful engine repower. See you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers.